Good day, class. Let's continue our lesson. Last meeting, we stopped here in Java technology. So we discussed a programming language, or Java is a programming language. So we call and we say it Java is a programming language because we can create program using Java. So whatever program we can create in other conventional programming language like PHP, like C, like Visual Basic, we can also create program in Java. So not only simple program we can create in Java, but we can also create all kinds of applications. So like for example, if I'm going to ask you to create an application like point of sale application. So this is an application wherein it is used by the cashier. So you can create this kind of application using Java. Okay. So not only this, but we can also create different applications like inventory, like similar with Facebook, similar with PowerPoint, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other applications. That is why we consider Java as programming language. Okay. So Java uses different tools like compiler, interpreter, documentation generator, class file, packaging tool, and so on. So in order you can create an application or a simple program with good result, we are going to use compiler. I mean the Java uses compiler, interpreter, documentation generator, and class file. So first is that compiler. So the compiler used by the Java is responsible for creating when you compile your program, your Java program, it is responsibility of the compiler to create a class file. Then that class file will be interpreted by the interpreter in order that the operating system could understand, okay, the program that you are creating. And actually, I'm going to discuss later further about the compiler and interpreter in the coming lesson in this unit 1. So document generator is very important also in programming, especially in Java. Like for example, if you're going to explain your program within your code, you may use documentation generator. Okay, like for example, documentation generator. Okay, this is it. Isang example, isang document. Okay. When you say document generator, we can create comments within your code, provided that you are going to use these characters like slash asterisk. Then you write there text, your text. So any text inside the characters like forward slash and asterisk, forward slash, the compiler ignores any text inside those characters. So this line is only used to explain your program, and it does not affect your code. Okay, so it means that you can create or you can write anything here, even Ilonggo, even Tagalog, batuno na sang Java, para lang nga ma-explain mo ang code. Kaya actually, gina-ignore yan na, it means nga hindi na part sang program. Ginasulat mo lang na para ma-explain ang code mo. So if you don't like to use the /**, you can also use also the double forward slashes. Then you write anything there. And if you don't like those two, you can also use the // then duwa ka asterisk, then ang end characters ang asterisk // then you can write anything inside in it. So actually the number 3 usually ginagamit is mag-ubra sang comments sa HTML. Okay, sa HTML sa malawig ang explanation, something like that. So you can use either of the 3 to explain your code, your program within your code mismo. Nasulod mo ning comments mo sa imong program. But like for example, if you forgot to include the characters like /**, then you write anything there to explain your code, it will be treated by the Java as part of the program. So therefore, and I'm sure that when you run your program, it will pop up many errors. It gives you errors, something like that. So para nga hindi mag-error ang imong explanation, isulod mo sa mga characters na ginatawag ng documentation generator. Okay? So Java is also an application environment. Okay? So application with the Java technology applications are typically general purpose programs that run on any machine where the Java runtime environment or JRE is installed. You know, class, before you create your Java program, you need to install the JRE. The JRE. So like for example, ano siya. So I'm going to send you this. The JRE, actually so for Amonica ang pinaka-latest nga na download ko. Actually, this is also a free software wherein you can download from the internet. And also the JDK, and the one that we are going to use is the Eclipse. So in my case, I have my version Mars, but there are so many versions of Eclipse available on the internet. So actually, depending on the capacity specifications of your computer. Like for example, if your computer is 64-bit, so you are going to opt to download the 64-bit. Okay. So this one, ang Java, you need to install the JRE, stands for Java Runtime Environment, para mag-run mo ang program mo. Okay? So this is where the compiler and interpreter, compiler, interpreter, the JVM, the Java Virtual Machine, are residing in the JRE and the JDK. So that is why you need these two. Actually, the one that I have here, the 86, this is intended for 32-bit, and the 64-bit. So depending on the specifications of your computer, like for example, in my case, I have, okay, let's see the system capacity. Okay, the specifications. So over here, you can see your system specifications. Just right click the computer, this PC icon, then you can go to the properties, then you can see the processor, the memory, the system type. Okay, so as you can see in in my case, in my laptop, the specification of the system type is 64-bit. So therefore, you're going to install the 64-bit. Okay, the 64-bit, ano yung 64-bit? Ang ining 86, this is 32-bit. So if your computer is 32-bit, so you're going to download Eclipse 32-bit, JDK 32-bit, dapat pala rin 32-bit. Kung 64-bit ang JRE, the JDK is also 64-bit, and the Eclipse is also 64-bit. Okay, that's it. Deployment in the environment. The Java technology has two main deployment. The JRE, para ko na ma-deploy ang atong program, maranang program. So, we need the JRE. Then, if you're going to use the HTML, if you are creating HTML using the Java, so you can use any browsers. Okay, any browsers, the Go browsers. Dan navigation, Netscape, the the Google, Firefox, no. Internet Explorer. Okay. So actually, it's not part of our lessons HTML. So let's talk about some features of Java. Why Java is very popular. So Java is very popular because Java is using the Java Virtual Machine, or in short, the JVM. So the JVM is an imaginary machine that is implemented by emulating software on a real machine. It means that the JVM is a software. So nag-trigger ni ang software, the Java Virtual Machine, if you're going to compile your program. And the Java Virtual Machine will not be existed. It will not exist if you don't have your JRE installed in your computer. So the JVM provides the hardware platform specifications to which you compile all Java technology code. This specification enables the Java software to be platform independent because the compilation is done for a generic machine known as the JVM. Now, what do you mean by platform independent? And what is this platform? Okay. So look at my illustration. Okay, share. So when you compile, like for example, you are done your work. Okay, may example ko sa. Okay, if you are done your work, okay, that's like for example, this is your work. This is your code using the Eclipse. Okay, ang naging sulat mo. Then when you compile, what happens to your code? So your code, when you save to make it recognized by the JRE, your file should be saved and with extension nga .java file. So this is your source code. So when you run this program, it is now the responsibility of the compiler to create a what we call this class file. Okay, class file. And then pag create isang class file, ma-trigger si JVM, si Java Virtual Machine, and then ma-trigger naman si interpreter. So si interpreter will interpret line by line of your code based on your class file. So i-interpret ya, if you're using your Mac, i-interpret yan na for Mac. So if you're using Windows like mine, so the interpreter will convert the bytecode to Windows, to the code where the Windows can understand, can interpret. The same is true with Linux kung may mga Unix or Android man. Gina-convert ni interpreter, ay si interpreter ni gin-trigger ni JVM virtual machine. Tapos si interpreter gina-translate ya ang bytecode plus file code into a code nga maintindihan ni Mac, Windows, kag Linux. So ang bytecode ang mission. Tapos gina-convert into machine code para maintindihan ni Mac, Windows. So as you can see, different platforms, Mac platform, Windows platform, Linux platform. If you notice that the Java can be run and can be interpreted by different platforms. That is why Java is a platform independent. Botabalon, it can be run in any platform, regardless of platform, regardless of operating system. That is why this Java becomes very popular. Kay kumbaga all around, flexible. It can be run in any platform. Okay, so because of the JVM triggered by the JRA. So a bytecode is a special machine language, that can be understood by the Java virtual machine. The bytecode is independent of any particular computer hardware. So any computer with a Java interpreter can execute and compile to Java, no matter what type of computer the program was compiled. Okay. So Java has one of the features of Java has a garbage collector. So many programming languages allow a programmer to allocate memory during runtime. Yes. So like for example, if you are using variable, A, B, C variables or X, Y, Z variables, the Java will allocate memory. So ano yung memory nga gina-refer? So, ano siya? So every computer has a random access memory. In my case, I have 4 gig memory. So dito na siya gina-allocate, nagakuha sa yung memory allocation sa memory ta. Then there should be a way to deallocate that memory block in order to other programs to use it again. Of course, kung gamit, in other languages like C and C++, when they are using memory, they need to deallocate. Botamalon yung nagamit ng memory, dapat sa program niya mismo, may ara na sa parts ng program niya nga malimpyuhan niya ang memory. Okay. So ang mga C, ang ibang mga languages nagagamit sa let's see. Okay, in here, so like for example in here, sa C nga language, they are using, like for example, you are using a variable nga pi, no, nag-allocate ka sang memory, nag-consume ka sang memory. And then after that, you need to use, don't forget to deallocate by using the syntax nga delete, in order to clean the memory. So, but if you as programmer forgot to write delete, so it means that you forgot to deallocate the memory. But in Java, you don't need to use delete to deallocate the memory. The programmer is free from the burden of having deallocate that memory themselves by having what we call garbage collection thread. The garbage collection thread is responsible for freeing any memory that can be freed. So very responsible ang Java because you don't need to use delete to deallocate to clean the memory. It is the work of the Java to clean the memory after using it. The Java is also a have code security. Code security is attained in Java through the implementation of its runtime environment or the Java runtime environment. The JRE runs code. Kasi JRE, it triggers the JVM, the compiler, to compile your program and performs class loading through the class loader, code verification through the bytecode verifier, and finally code execution. The class loader is responsible for loading all classes needed for the Java program. Okay, the Java, the JRE consisting of classes needed by your program. And there is also a class loader where the class loader is responsible for loading the classes nga kinahanglan mo sa imong program para mag-run ang program mo. And at the same time, in order to separate the namespaces for the classes of the local file system from those that are imported from network sources. The Java or the class loader, it recognizes the namespaces owned by the Java. Once the class loader could not recognize the namespaces owned by the Java, it gina-separate yan na and gina-treat yan na as virus. So like for example, actually, we cannot open this JRE because this is executable. Okay, so these are classes and other classes in the JRE hindi ta makita. So, ma-recognize those classes will can be recognized by the class loader. Then, if the class loader defines some other files that are not part of the Java, those files are separated. So, mga sila nga namespaces and mga extension. May mga extension na DLL, ang mga namespaces.exe, mga extension, mga file extension, ang natawag nga namespaces. So, ma-recognize na sa Java, kung part na sa Java ang nagasulod na file sa iya. So, this limits any Trojan horse application since local classes are always loaded first. The local classes found on the JRE are loaded first. Okay? And recognized by the JRE, by the Java. Once hindi ma-recognize, kinatreat yan na as Trojan horse. So, ang Trojan horse is a malware where it gina-disguise siya ang pa-disguise nga useful application but actually it's not. So, amo na ginagamit sa mga hacker. So, after loading all classes, after loading all the classes needed by your program, the memory layout, that is memory allocation of the executable is then determined. This adds protection against unauthorized access to restricted areas of the code since the memory layout is determined during runtime. Okay. After loading the class layouting of memory, the bytecode verifier then tests the format of the code fragments. Ang imo to nga code ni obra mga program will be checked for illegal code and that can violate access rights to objects. Okay. So of course the GRE also always recognizes its own classes. Those classes or those files that could not be recognized are treated as malware. After all this has been done, the code is then finally executed and you will see the result. So how does the Java program will be processed? Okay. So here is the illustration actually. Okay, the illustration. So first, phase 1, of course, when you are writing code, like over here, okay, writing code, okay, this is where you are going to write your code. This is what we call our Eclipse IDE, and this is what we call our editor. Okay, this is editor. You can also use Notepad as your editor. Okay. So later in Unit 2, I'll be showing you on how to download the Eclipse, on how to use this Eclipse. So phase 1, you can edit your program using the editor like we have a while ago, the Notepad and the Eclipse. Program is created in an editor and stored on disk in a file ending with .java. Then as imo disk will be stored your program with an extension .java. Okay, and in my case, my first class .java. Okay, .java. So after writing your code, of course, you are going to run by clicking this run button. So that's the time this program will be compiled. It is now the responsibility of the compiler to convert your code into bytecode and with an extension nga .class. It means you have now your two files. A file consists with an extension nga .java. After compiling your program, it will be created a file with extension .class. Okay, how it works. So like for example, if you're going to open your Eclipse, okay, that's it. So just wait. Medyo okay. So okay, you can see here the workspace launcher. Workspace. This is where you are going to work your code. So with an address, locald modules, module for CIT207, object-oriented programming, and Eclipse folder. This is the address where you are going to save your work, or you can browse and select all the place where you're going to save your file. So in my case here in the Eclipse. So pangitaan na to ang Eclipse sa locald daw. Locald, then ano to? Modules, then module for ICT, then look for Eclipse folder. Okay, then we have diri na nasulod kaysa example ta. Howdian sa package nga Howdian sa source tapos ano ay source Howdian source and Howdian then okay. So this is where you save your file. So after running your program by clicking this run button, that's the time the Java will compile. After compiling, you will be given and created a file with an extension .java. Okay. After that compiling, it will create a class. Okay. So class. So balik tadi. There is a bin. Howdian. Okay, yan siya. May .java ka na, tapos may .class. So duwa na. You have now two files sa source and sa bin. This is where the .java and this is where the Java the program, the file .class. Okay. So compiler creates bytecodes and stores them on disk in a file ending with .class. So you have .java and .class. Now, in the third phase, it is the work of class loader. So, the compiler class loader are triggered by the JRE. Okay. So, the class loader reads the class files created during the compilation, containing the bytecodes from disk, inputs those bytecodes in memory. Sa primary memory. Then we have the bytecode verifier confirms that all bytecodes are valid and not violate Java security restrictions. If bytecodes are not recognized by the bytecode verifier, it will be treated as malware. And then once you have already verified by the bytecode verifier, si JVM, si Java Virtual Machine. To execute the program, the JVM reads bytecodes and just-in-time compiles them into language that the computer can understand as the program executes, store data values in permanent memory. So this is where the interpreter will be triggered by the Java Virtual Machine. The interpreter responsibility is that to read your class file or the bytecode line by line by line, where your operating system can understand. In my case, I am using Windows, others using Mac, others using Unix, others using Linux, others using Android. So it is the work of the JVM to trigger the interpreter. Then the interpreter translates from bytecode to the code that can be understood by any platform. Platforms like I mentioned, Windows, Linux, Unix, something like that. Okay. So sa phase 1, this is the explanation that I already mentioned, creating your Java using editor or notepad, compiling. So you have given a file.java, file.class, okay. Then, must be placed in the memory, loading, may loader na kita, bytecode verification, then execution. That's it. more. Okay, that's it. I just make sure that I discuss everything. Mhm. And, and so for review, as overall summary, so you write program in any text editor, you're given it that Java extension. When you compile, that Java will be what we call this transform into bytecode by creating a dot class extension. Then the interpreter will interpret, will transform or convert from that class to a code where the operating system could understand so that you can see your program output. Thank you and good luck. Okay. So I think you already discussed, I think you already answered these things. So you can visit the sites, Vecterms, the with resource. So ang training workshop object-oriented is may manual. Hindi ni makita sa internet. Amo lang ni may HTTPS. Okay. So you just write your answers in your notebook. But I realized that it's very difficult. It's very, mabudlay. Kung isulod, dalon-dalon nyo pa tong notebook nyo sa school. So, tinggo na lang natin sa midterm. But I'm giving you the deadline to submit your work in a picture through Messenger. Pero ang notebook as hard copy sa midterm na lang na i-gather. So, importante mapicturan, then i-send sa Messenger para magbalang kung ano nga date ninyo in-send ang inyong work. Okay? Good luck and goodbye. Thank you.